there comes a moment, a quiet, sharp moment, where everything changes. Not because the world shifts, but because you do. You stop waiting. You stop waiting for motivation, for someone to notice, for things to get easier, for the perfect time to arrive. You stop waiting because you finally understand the truth. No one is coming. No one is going to build it for you. No one is going to pull you from that bed, rewrite your habits, silence your self-doubt. No one is going to drag you across the threshold of your potential. That responsibility, that weight, is yours. And the day you accept that, fully, deeply, relentlessly, is the day your real life begins. We waste so much time waiting for permission, waiting for applause, waiting for proof that it's worth it. But focus, true focus, doesn't wait. It doesn't care about applause. It doesn't need conditions to be perfect. It doesn't ask for a map. It builds the road, and it starts with the first rule and the foundation of it all. Rule 1. Focus fully on building your strongest self every single day. Let's be honest, no. One wakes up accidentally disciplined. No one becomes clear, strong, and unstoppable by luck. The strongest version of you? It is forged in silence, in obscurity, in the early hours when no one is clapping. Success doesn't start in the spotlight. It begins in the dark. It begins when the alarm goes off and you rise anyway. It begins when your body is sore and you train anyway. It begins when no one believes in you and you work anyway. Because the strongest self is not built by feeling good. It's built by choosing right, repeatedly, when it's hardest to. Every day, you choose. Every moment you reach for your phone instead of that book. You choose distraction over growth. Every excuse you make to skip your workout. You vote against your own strength. Every time you say yes to things that drain you, you say no to your future. And these aren't small choices. They are bricks laid down daily, becoming the foundation of who you are becoming or who you're avoiding. The world trains you to chase motivation. It makes you believe you need to feel good to do good. But here's the truth. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is fire. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is structural. And if you rely on motivation, you'll build nothing that lasts. Because motivation leaves you. But discipline, it builds you. Discipline is the voice that says, I don't care how I feel. I care what I decided. That voice is rare. That voice is powerful. That voice is you. If you choose it, you have to become your own coach, your own accountability, your own savior, because no one's coming to save you. But that's not bad news. That's the best gift you'll ever get. Because if no one is coming to rescue you, then you are free to rescue yourself. You are free to stop negotiating with your excuses. You are free to stop chasing external validation. You are free to start building right where you are, with what you have, with who you are now. Not someday, not when you're ready. Now. So what does this look like? Practically, it looks like reading 5 pages instead of scrolling. It looks like training when no one's watching. It looks like choosing silence over noise, focus over fleeing, discipline over comfort. It's not dramatic, it's not sexy, but it is sacred. It's the invisible work that builds the unshakable version of you. And here's the good news. You're not weak, you're not broken, you're just scattered. And the moment you bring all of you back into focus, and the moment you stop giving energy to everything outside of your control, everything begins to shift, because clarity doesn't shout. It whispers, and it waits for the moment you finally say, I'm done waiting for life to change. I will become the change. So today, and every day after, focus on you, not out of selfishness, out of alignment, because the world doesn't need a weaker version of you seeking applause. It needs your strongest self, focused, grounded, undeniable. And the only way to become that is to build it. Every single day. Rule 2. Train your mind to ignore the noise every day. The world tries to hijack you. It comes dressed in convenience, in entertainment, in outrage, in updates that feel urgent but mean nothing. Noise. It surrounds you. It waits for you. The moment you open your eyes. And it follows you into every room, every screen, every silence. And the most dangerous part? You don't even realize you're being consumed by it until you can no longer hear your own thoughts. Noise isn't always loud. Sometimes it's subtle, familiar, comforting. The constant scroll, the news you can't change, the arguments that go nowhere, the distractions dressed as rest, but every second you give to it is a second stolen from your clarity, your purpose, your power. So here's the rule. Train your mind to ignore the noise, not once, not when it's convenient, but daily and like a warrior sharpening a blade, because the mind left untrained will chase everything. It will wander, it will panic, it will react, but the mind that's disciplined, it becomes a weapon. It doesn't chase, it chooses, it doesn't absorb, it observes, it doesn't react, it responds from strength. The Stoics practiced this. With religious discipline, Epictetus said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize your mind is complicit." They understood that no one can steal your peace unless you hand it over. And most of us, we give it away to every headline, every notification, every stranger on the internet. But what if you stopped? What if you stopped letting external noise dictate your internal state? That's when you reclaim your mind. That's when you begin to think clearly again. Let's be clear. Silencing the noise isn't about disconnecting from life. It's about reconnecting to yourself. Because deep down, underneath the chaos, there is a calm voice. Your voice. The one that knows what matters. The one that knows what to do next. But you can't hear it until you quiet everything else. So how do you train your mind to ignore the noise? Simple. Audit your inputs. What are you listening to? What do you read the moment you wake up? Who has access to your emotional space? Build silence into your day, not absence of sound, absence of noise. Walk without music. Sit with your breath. Give your mind space to process, to reset, to return. Respond slowly. Don't rush to react. Let the comments sit. Let the moment pass. Let you choose the response, not your ego. You don't need more motivation. You need less distraction. You don't need more stimulation. You need more stillness. Because clarity is not found in the noise. It's found after the noise. And every time you practice ignoring what doesn't matter, you strengthen the voice inside you that does. Here's the deeper truth. The world will always be loud, but your strength, it's measured by your ability to stay quiet in the middle of it, to stay focused when others scatter, to stay grounded when others drift, to stay disciplined when others chase chaos. That's not just rare, that's dangerous, because a person who can control their attention can control their life. So today, and every day, train your mind. Close the tab, ignore the drama, mute the noise, and ask, is this helping me build the life I want? Is this thought, this headline, this notification, moving me forward or pulling me under? If it's not fuel, it's noise, and you weren't born to be distracted. You were born to direct. Rule 3. When the first battle of the day every morning is a war zone, not the kind with bullets and bombs, but the kind you fight inside before the world even sees your face. The alarm goes off, and in that moment, before your eyes even open, the voice begins, 5 more minutes. You deserve rest. You can start tomorrow. What's the rush? It's subtle, It's seductive. It sounds like comfort, but it's sabotage, because that moment, that tiny window between sleep and decision, is where your day is won or lost. This isn't about waking up early. It's not about productivity hacks or cold showers. It's about principle. It's about starting the day by sending a clear message to your mind, to your body, to your doubt. I run this. I choose discomfort. I lead. Because if you can't defeat the comfort of your own bed, how will you defeat the resistance of the world? The Stoics believed in voluntary hardship. Seneca practiced it. Epictetus taught it. Marcus Aurelius lived it. They understood. If you only act when you feel like it, you will be ruled by weakness. But if you rise when it's hard, if you start your day by doing what you don't want to do, you remind yourself who's in charge, and that reminder echoes throughout your day, because how you do anything is how you do everything. You snooze your alarm, you delay that phone call, you skip the gym, you negotiate with your standards, you lose the morning, and wonder why the rest of the day feels off. But if you win that first battle, if you rise when it's hard, if you show up when no one's watching, you carry that momentum into everything. You train your mind to act without delay, to choose discipline over impulse, to move even without motivation, and that's the difference. Motivation asks, do I feel like it? Discipline answers, it doesn't matter. Motivation is emotion. Discipline is decision. And every morning the first battle isn't about your schedule. It's about your identity. Are you the kind of person who follows through or folds? The answer is in your first action, not your intentions, your action. Let's get practical. Whatever your first battle is, make it sacred. Maybe it's the gym. Maybe it's journaling. Maybe it's prayer, meditation, breathwork. Whatever it is, don't skip it. Don't delay it. Don't excuse it. Make it non-negotiable. Because that first win, it's not just a task, it's a trigger. It flips a switch in your brain. It tells the rest of you, we're moving, we're locked in, we are who we say we are. And the best part? That win can be small, but it must be pure. A clean bed, a made decision, a cold shower faced without flinch, a rep pushed through when comfort whispered, stop. Small wins, done with intensity, build unstoppable momentum. Because strength isn't built in big moments, it's built in pattern, in how you treat your mornings and how you meet resistance before the world even wakes. So tomorrow, don't just wake up, rise. Don't just start your day. Win it in the first 10 minutes. Choose discipline before distraction. Choose alignment before adrenaline. Choose purpose before pressure. And when you do, everything else gets easier. Not because the day is easier, but because you're stronger, because you showed up before anything else could stop you. You didn't wait. You didn't flinch. You didn't hesitate. You won before the world even got a chance to fight back. Rule 4, do the work, even when it's hard. Let's get something straight. Every goal you set, every change you crave, every breakthrough you fantasize about, all of it comes with a price. Not money, not approval, not luck, but work, and not the convenient kind, not the glamorous kind, but the kind you don't feel like doing, the kind that no one applauds, the kind that tests you daily. You see, everyone wants the result, but very few want the repetition. We love the idea of greatness, but the execution, the early mornings, the lonely nights, the sessions where nothing seems to move, that's where most people quit. Because discipline isn't about intensity, it's about consistency, especially when it's hard. Hard is not the enemy. Discomfort is not failure. Resistance is not a sign to stop. It's a signal to go deeper. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Translation: The hard part is the path. The resistance is the training. The struggle is the sharpening. Because if you only show up when it's easy, you'll never become strong enough for when it's not. This is where identity is forged, not when it's sunny, but when it's dark. Not when you're inspired, but when you're exhausted. The rep you do when you feel weak, that's the rep that changes you. The project you push through when your mind says quit, that's the one that sharpens your edge, because success doesn't ask how you feel. It asks what you do, and the work? It doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't care if you're uncertain. It only responds to one thing: execution. So ask yourself, are you committed to the result or addicted to comfort? Are you chasing the dream or flirting with the fantasy? Because the difference is work, sustained, quiet, often unseen, always paid in full, in time, focus, and patience. Let's get practical. There will be days when you don't want to show up. That's not a question of if, it's a guarantee. So prepare for them. Set your non-negotiables. Build rituals, not resolutions. Design your environment for action, not willpower. And when the hard day comes, not if, but when, don't lower your standard, lower your volume, if needed. But don't stop the song. Even if all you can give is 60% that day, I can't give all of that 60%. That's how consistency is built. That's how trust in yourself is restored. That's how results compound. Slowly, but always. And here's the deeper truth. Hard doesn't mean wrong. Hard doesn't mean stop. Hard means growth is happening. You're being stretched, exposed, refined. So lean in, not because it's easy, but because you've decided who you want to become. And that version of you, they don't quit at hard. They begin there. Final reminder, you don't have to feel ready. You don't have to feel motivated. You just have to do the work. One page, one rep. One difficult, disciplined, ordinary day at a time. That's how extraordinary is built. And every time you choose effort over excuse, you cast another vote for the future you. So do the work, especially when it's hard, because that's when it counts. Rule 5. Stop negotiating with your mind. There's a voice in your head. It knows all your weaknesses, all your fears, all your excuses, and it uses them with surgical precision, not to protect you, but to control you. You've heard it. Just 5 more minutes. You'll do it later. You've done enough for today. You don't need to push that hard. No one's watching. Take it easy. Sounds reasonable, right? But here's the truth. That voice is not your friend. That voice is not your ally. That voice is the comfort-addicted version of you, and its mission is to keep you average. If you want to build real discipline, you must stop negotiating with your own mind. Because every time you argue with your goals, every time you explain your way out of effort, every time you delay what you promised yourself you would do, you strengthen the wrong version of you. You give power to the liar in your head, the one who wants comfort over growth, convenience over commitment. And soon, that voice becomes louder than your ambition. You don't need more motivation. You need a non-negotiable standard, a line in the sand that says, when it's time to work, I work. When it's time to move, I move. When I say I'm going to do something, I do it, regardless of how I feel. That's what separates the disciplined from the distracted. Not talent, not timing, not tools, but the ability to act without emotional permission. Think of your mind like a courtroom. Every day it presents arguments, reasons why you should delay, why today's not the right day, why just this once won't matter. But here's the secret. You are not the lawyer. You are the judge. You don't need to entertain every argument. You don't need to justify every instinct. You just need to decide. And once the decision is made, the debate ends. The Stoics knew this. They didn't overthink. They didn't ruminate for hours. They asked, is this aligned with who I want to be? If yes, they moved. If no, they didn't, that's it. No overanalysis, no bargaining. No mental loopholes because they knew. Negotiation with weakness is how strength dies. Let's get practical. Create triggers that bypass your emotions. When the alarm rings, you get up. No debate. When it's time to train, you train. No internal commentary. When it's time to write, create, build, you start. Even if it's ugly. Especially if it's hard. Over time, these patterns become identity. You stop thinking about discipline, you become discipline. You stop asking, should I? And start saying, I do. That shift is liberation. And here's the truth. No, one tells you freedom isn't doing whatever you feel like. Freedom is doing what must be done without delay. Freedom is having a mind that works for you, not against you. A mind that follows through. That honors its own word. That doesn't waste time arguing over decisions already made, because every time you break a promise to yourself, you lose trust. And without trust in yourself, there is no progress. So make a rule. No more internal negotiations. No more excuses, dressed as self-care. No more talking yourself out of greatness. When it's time, go. When it's hard, push. When it's uncomfortable, stay. Don't ask for permission. Don't wait for energy. Don't negotiate with the part of you that wants to stay small. Because your dreams, they're not built through compromise. They're built through command. Rule 6, work in the dark. Let success be your noise. There is a kind of power that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't post every move. It doesn't beg for attention. It doesn't crave validation. It just builds. Quietly, consistently, relentlessly, no spotlight, no audience, just work. And when it finally arrives, it doesn't need to explain itself. Because the results, they speak louder than words ever could. The greatest transformations happen in silence, not in front of the crowd, but behind closed doors, before sunrise, after everyone's gone home, when it's just you, and the decision to keep going. That's the dark, and most people fear it, because in the dark there's no applause, no feedback, no likes, just discipline and doubt. But if you can learn to work there, you become unstoppable, because the dark teaches you something the spotlight never can: how to be driven by vision, not validation. Look at nature. Roots grow underground, long before anything breaks the surface. Iron is tempered in fire, far from the eyes of spectators. Stars are born in darkness, not daylight. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius never wrote his meditations to impress anyone. They were for him, his private battle, his silent sharpening. Because true greatness doesn't begin with announcement, it begins with alignment. But let's be honest, we live in a world that worships exposure. If you didn't post it, did it even happen? If you didn't share your progress, and does it count? But here's the truth. You don't owe the world a play-by-play. You owe your future, your discipline. And the deeper your work goes, the less you'll care about being seen, because you'll start seeing yourself clearly. So what does working in the dark actually look like? It looks like writing when no one's reading, training when no one's watching, practicing when no one's validating. It's doing the reps that won't go viral. It's building the habits no one sees. It's honoring the process more than the praise. It's falling in love with effort, not outcome. And what happens when you do this? You become grounded, untouchable, focused, because you no longer need external noise to feel internal worth. You're no longer building for applause, you're building for impact. And impact is rarely loud in the beginning. It echoes after the work is done. Here's the paradox. The more you work in silence, the louder your results will speak. Not because you forced them to, but because you earned them. When people finally see the transformation, they'll call it talent. They'll call it luck. They'll call it natural, but you'll know the truth. It was built in silence, with sweat, with focus, with fire. No one else saw. So let them sleep. Let them scroll. Let them doubt. You train, write, build, refine, alone if you must, in darkness if needed. Because one day, your silence will become your story. Your process will become your proof, and your result will be so undeniable. They won't need defending, they'll be loud enough on their own. Rule 7. Build a system that makes discipline inevitable. Discipline is not a feeling. It's not something you wake up with. It's not something that strong people are born with. It's not magic. It's not mystery. It's design. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems, and if your system is weak, your discipline will break. Let's get brutally honest. Most people don't have a discipline problem. They have a design problem. They rely on motivation, on memory, on willpower, one of the most unreliable forces in the human brain. But real discipline? It's not something you hope for. It's something you engineer. You build it into your life. You embed it into your environment. You design your habits to pull you forward, even when your emotions push you back. The Stoics were masters of structure. They didn't leave their virtue to chance. They wrote, they reflected, they practiced rituals of stillness, restraint, clarity on daily, because they knew, without structure, we drift. Without systems, we fall. Without design, we default to comfort, every time. So what does building a system for discipline actually look like? Make the default behavior the desired behavior. If you want to read more, put books where your phone used to be. If you want to train more, lay your gym clothes out the night before. If you want to eat clean, remove junk food from your house entirely. You don't rise to your best self through will. You slide into it, because your system makes it easier to do right than to do wrong. Remove the friction from what's good. Make the productive choice the path of least resistance. Add friction to what's harmful. Make distractions harder to reach. Log out, turn off, delete apps if needed, because discipline doesn't start with strength. It starts with structure. Think of yourself as an architect. What environment would make focus automatic? What routines would make training non-negotiable? What rituals would make clarity your default state? Design that. Build that. Then protect it, like your life depends on it. Because in many ways, it does. Your goals, your peace, your energy, your future, they all hang on whether you've built scaffolding strong enough to hold them. Let's be real. You will not always feel like doing the work. You will not always feel strong. You will not always feel clear. But your system should carry you when your emotions can't. That's the power of design. It creates consistency. Even when motivation disappears, it keeps you moving. Even when life gets loud, it makes discipline no longer an act of courage, but a natural consequence of how you live. And here's the most liberating part. Once your system is in place, you don't have to think as much. You just execute. No drama, no debate, just flow. You wake up, you follow through, not because it's easy, but because you made it inevitable. And that kind of life, that's not chaotic, that's clean, that's powerful. That's what people call willpower, but it's really just intelligent design. Final practice, audit your systems. Ask, where in my life do I rely on memory, emotion, or force instead of structure? Then adjust, build the path so that it pulls you forward. Make the process so clear, so simple, so built in, that success is no longer about force, it's about flow. That's discipline, not as punishment, but as precision, not as pressure, but as architecture. Because when your life is built on systems that honor your highest self, you don't fight for discipline anymore. You live inside it. Rule 8, take your power back from distraction. Your attention is your power. Where it goes, your energy follows, your time follows, your life follows. But we don't protect it. We leak it, minute by minute, notification by notification, scroll by unconscious scroll, until one day we wake up, exhausted, but not from doing hard things, empty, but not from giving to purpose. We're drained because we've bled out our focus, one distraction at a time. Distraction is not just a productivity issue, it's a spiritual one. It's not just about wasted hours, it's about a wasted self. Because every time you reach for the unnecessary, you abandon the essential. You betray your deeper self, the one craving silence, presence, clarity. Distraction is the silent killer of greatness. And the worst part? It wears the mask of pleasure, of curiosity, of just a minute. But that minute becomes an hour. That hour becomes a pattern. That pattern becomes your identity, and identity becomes your destiny. The Stoics knew this well. They didn't fear failure. They feared frittering life away. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. And nothing wastes more than the belief that we can serve two masters, our purpose and our distractions. You can't, not for long. One will win. One will rule. One will define who you become." So how do we take our power back? Step 1, call distraction what it is. Not harmless, not just checking, not relaxation. It is resistance in disguise. It's the thing that shows up the moment your real work begins. You sit down to write, and suddenly remember you need to check your email. You open your laptop and end up 20 minutes deep into someone else's life. You start a hard task and take a quick break to scroll. These aren't random. They are trained reactions, hardwired by repetition, enabled by design. And to break them, you need to interrupt the pattern. Step 2, create a war room around your attention. Make your focus sacred. Turn off notifications. Use site blockers. Time block your deep work. Put the phone in another room. Tell the world, I'm not available during this window because I'm becoming someone I've never been. It may sound extreme, but the world is aggressively trying to steal your attention, so you must be equally aggressive in protecting it. Step 3, rebuild your focus muscle deliberately. Start small. Set a timer for 25 minutes. Pick one task, one goal, one moment of total presence. Then increase it, day by day, until distraction feels foreign again, until clarity becomes your baseline, not the exception. This is not about perfection, it's about presence, because the person who can focus can outwork, outlast, outlive the one who can't, every time. And here's the deeper truth. You don't need more time. You need more ownership of the time you already have. Distraction isn't just what pulls you away. It's what pulls you apart. From your values, from your standards, from your deeper mission. So take it back. Take back your mind. Take back your hours. Take back the sacred space where your best self is waiting to be built. Final reminder, you were not created to be a passive consumer of noise. You were built to build, to create, to focus, to finish. But that will never happen until you look distraction in the eye and say, you don't own me. I know what matters, and I choose presence over pleasure, purpose over impulse, vision over noise. That's where your power lives, not in doing more, but in being fully here with less, because your focus is your fire, and once you guard it, you become unbreakable. Rule 9. Keep showing up, no matter what. Some days you won't feel like it. You'll wake up tired, drained, uninspired. Nothing will feel urgent. Everything will feel heavy. Your goals will seem distant, your progress invisible, and your willpower silent. And it's in those moments, not the easy ones, not the perfect ones, that you must make the most important decision of all. Show up anyway, Because greatness isn't built in extraordinary days. It's built in the ordinary ones, the days no one sees, the hours no one claps for, the reps you do when everything in you wants to quit. Those moments, they don't look impressive, but they are sacred, because discipline is not a mood. It's not a feeling. It's a promise and kept in silence. This is the rule that makes all other rules real. Keep showing up, no matter what. Show up when you're motivated, but especially when you're not. Show up when you're winning, but especially when you're lost in doubt. Show up when the world is cheering, but especially when no one knows your name, because your future doesn't care about your excuses. It only responds to your consistency. The Stoics lived this. They didn't wait for the right emotion. They acted from principle. Marcus Aurelius faced death, betrayal, pressure, and still wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, remind yourself, I am rising to do the work of a human being." Not because it felt good, but because it was right. Because when your actions are tied to your values, not your feelings, you become untouchable. Let's get brutally honest. The path will not always feel good, but that's never been the point. This isn't about perfection, it's about presence. This isn't about never falling, it's about never staying down. So you missed a day? Get up. So you slipped? Get up. So you lost momentum? Get up. Again, and again, and again. That's the difference between those who wish and those who win. You want to become unstoppable? Start by becoming reliable to yourself. Become the kind of person who shows up, who keeps the promise, who does the reps, who writes the words, who takes the walk, who faces the resistance, and moves anyway, because that's what builds trust. Not grand gestures, repetition and trust. That's the fuel of identity. When you trust yourself to show up, you stop needing outside motivation. You become your own engine. Practice. Create your minimum baseline. The I show up no matter what standard. Not massive, just consistent. Something small, sustainable, sacred. Then, build on it. Not by intensity, but by integrity. Show up especially when no one would blame you for not showing up. That's when the real growth happens. That's when your standard separates from the rest of the world, because they wait to feel like it. You don't. You act, you move, you return. And here's the paradox. The more you show up when it's hard, the easier it becomes to do so. You build identity. You build proof. You look in the mirror and see someone who doesn't abandon themselves. And that's real power. Not being perfect, but being present. Not being fearless, but being faithful to your path. So let this be your mantra. No matter how I feel, no matter what happens, I will show up. For myself, for my purpose, for the life I've decided to build. And over time, those little daily show-ups, they become the architecture of something unshakable. And one day, you won't have to convince the world of your strength, because your consistency will speak for you loud, clear, and undeniable. Rule 10, make inner strength your identity. There's a moment in every transformation where the habits are no longer just choices. The effort is no longer just routine. The discipline is no longer just behavior. It becomes something deeper, more permanent, more real. It becomes who you are, not what you do, not what you're trying to be, but what you embody. This is the final rule. Make inner strength your identity, because when strength becomes your standard, you don't have to keep fighting for it. You are it. This is where all the previous rules lead. Focus becomes your lens. Detachment becomes your shield. Consistency becomes your rhythm. Discipline becomes your instinct, and it all fuses into one core truth. This is who I am now. Not just on my best days, but always. Because anyone can be disciplined when it's easy. Anyone can show up when it's exciting. But identity is what stays. when motivation leaves, when applause fades, when no one else is watching. The Stoics didn't just write about virtue, they became it. They didn't wake up each morning hoping to feel noble. They lived as though they already were. Marcus Aurelius didn't say, "I want to be strong." He said, "It is in my nature to act this way," and that's the shift you must make. From doing discipline to being discipline, from chasing strength to becoming the kind of person who cannot live without it. So how do you turn practice into personality? You link every action to identity. You don't say, "I'm trying to be focused." You say, "I'm a focused person, so I do this." You don't say, "I should work out." You say, "I'm the kind of person who trains, even when it's hard." You don't say, "I hope I stay consistent." You say, "I'm someone who doesn't miss and because I don't break my word." When your actions flow from identity, discipline becomes automatic. Not because it's easy, but because it's aligned. But let's go deeper. Identity isn't just what you repeat. It's what you refuse to betray. It's the version of you that you protect, even when no one else would know if you slipped, because the strongest people in the world, they don't just resist temptation. They identify as someone who doesn't need it. They don't ask, "Can I get away with this?" They ask, "Is this who I want to be?" That's the level. That's the standard. And once you reach it, you stop needing rules. You've become the kind of person who lives the principle, effortlessly, relentlessly, quietly. And here's the paradox. The deeper your strength becomes, the less you need to prove it. You don't need to shout. You don't need to explain. You don't need to convince anyone. Your presence says it for you. You walk differently. You speak less. You react slower. You move with purpose, not panic. Because when inner strength is your identity, everything else adjusts. Practice. Write. Your code, not goals, standards. I train daily, not to look good, but because I'm the kind of person who finishes what he starts. I protect my attention, because clarity is my edge. I don't break promises to myself because my word is sacred. I act even when it's hard because comfort is not who I am. Then live it, refine it, become it. Until one day, you stop saying, "I'm trying to be strong," and you start saying, "This is who I am." Integration. When discipline becomes your essence, you've walked this far. 10 rules, 10 foundations, 10 choices, made over and over against resistance, comfort, and noise. But now we reach the real question. What have you become? Because this was never about tasks, never about goals, never about performance. This was always about identity, about the quiet construction of a stronger self. Not louder, not more popular, just undeniable. Let's go back. You began by turning inward, learning to focus fully on the only thing you can control, you. You trained your mind to ignore the noise, to separate signal from static, to return to clarity, while the world screamed chaos. You won the first battle of the day, not because it was easy, but because it taught you one truth. Victory is a decision, not a condition. You did the work, even when it was hard, even when it was thankless, because you understood. Hard is where you're sharpened. You stopped negotiating with your mind. You silenced the voice of weakness with the echo of decision. You worked in the dark, not to impress, but to become. You built a system, a life scaffolded around discipline, where success wasn't a chance, but a consequence. You reclaimed your attention, took it back from distraction, and in doing so, you took back your power. You kept showing up. On the good days, on the bad days, especially when no one would have blamed you for quitting. And finally, you turned all of that into identity. You didn't just do strength, you became it. But now, here's the shift. You don't just practice these principles anymore. You embody them. They live in your breath, in your posture, in how you respond when no one's watching. Because this is no longer a program. It's a pattern, a code, a way of being. This is the point where most people stop. They think the work is done. They think strength is a destination, but you know better. True discipline isn't a peak. It's a path, a quiet walk, taken daily, without applause. Because you didn't do all this to prove something. You did it to remember who you are. So what does it mean to truly integrate this into your life? It means you stop checking the mirror. You stop asking for feedback. You stop needing approval. You just live aligned with your values, aligned with your standard, aligned with the quiet voice inside you that says, "This is the life I choose, and I no longer need to explain it." And what happens when you live this way? You begin to notice something subtle, but powerful. You speak slower. You respond calmer. You need less. You crave depth over distraction, order over chaos, presence over performance. Not because you're forcing it, but because you've become someone else, or maybe you've finally become yourself. Here's what no one tells you. Discipline doesn't cage you. It frees you. It removes the noise. It clears the fog. It reveals the path. Not because it's easy, but because it's yours. It says, you don't have to do everything. You just have to do what matters. Every day. Without drama. Without doubt. Just truth. Just fire. Just presence. So now, we prepare to close. But this is not the end. This is where the habits die. And the code begins. A way of moving through life, rooted in stillness, forged in difficulty, unshakable. You don't follow the rules anymore. You are the rule. You don't need reminders. You're built into them. And that kind of person, they don't wait for strength. They carry it everywhere. The final transformation. You are the standard. This is it. The final breath of the old you. The final echo of who you used to be. Before the fight, before the silence, before the repetitions no one clapped for. And now, there is no going back, because something has shifted. Not around you, within you. You've stopped looking outward for permission. You've stopped waiting for signs. You've stopped asking the world to tell you who you are. You've built it, brick by brick, rep by rep, day by silent day. You are not like them anymore. And that's not arrogance, and that's awareness. You've paid a price, a private one, invisible to most, but deeply felt by you. The price of showing up without recognition, of doing what's right when it's hard, of choosing progress over praise, of standing still while the world chased pleasure, and still rising. And that price has bought you something priceless. Standard. Not a trend, not a phase, not a temporary identity. A standard that does not bend to emotion. A standard that does not seek approval. A standard that leads regardless of what follows. You are the standard now. When others look around for how to live, let them see you. Let your consistency speak. Let your presence remind them what focus feels like. Let your discipline expose their distractions, not with words, not with judgment, with quiet example. Because real leadership is silent, and real power doesn't announce itself. It walks, it breathes, it endures. But don't get it twisted. This isn't the end of struggle. It's not the end of resistance. You will still fall. You will still face days where you feel like nothing is working. But now, you know what to do with that. You've built the system. You've trained the mind. You've rewritten the code. And the most powerful thing you've learned? To return to the standard, to return to the breath, to return to the man you've decided to be, again and again. Because mastery is not never falling, it's never staying down. You're not chasing goals anymore. You're embodying character. The reps are sacred, the silence is welcome, the discomfort invited. Because now you understand this is who I am now, not occasionally, not when convenient, always. So let this be your oath. I no longer perform, I embody. I no longer seek validation, I radiate. I no longer react, I decide. I no longer drift. I direct. Let this be your identity. I am the calm in the storm, the breath in the fire, the edge in the noise. I am the standard for myself and for everything I touch. Let this be your rhythm. No matter what, I show up. No matter who's watching, I move. No matter how I feel, I finish. Final truth, you are not behind, you are not broken. You are not missing anything. You are ready. Ready to lead, even if no one follows. Ready to rise, even when it's thankless. Ready to carry the weight, not because it's easy, but because it's yours. You don't need to be saved. You already rescued yourself, and now you walk forward, not as a seeker, but as a standard, not waiting, not watching, just walking, steady, silent, inevitable.